Hello and welcome to Punters Inside Run. I'm Matthew Campbell. Great to be with you once again. We're at the end of what's been a massive week of racing. It's always the biggest week of the year and it's been pretty tough. I'm joined by James Lamb from punters.com.au, man about town and the busiest man this week, Mick Sharkie. I mentioned, we've got a great Saturday coming up, James, but gee, Cup Day was tough. We take away White Marlin, the short price favourite. Average price was $21.
Yeah, we peaked early with White Marlin, Matty. It was all downhill from there. But like you said, we've got another day to get through it and finish with a flurry.
We now have Champions Day, Shark. The way things have been reshuffled, we've ended up with a great way to finish the carnival.
I think we're going to finish like champions, Matty. Looking
Exactly.
at some of these fields, there's a lot of quality, a lot of class, a lot of bets that I want to have. I reckon I've got one more left in me.
I think you have too. Nick H from punters.com.au will join us to look at 5 Diamonds Day in Sydney, and we'll have all the tips and all the best bets on the big call. But first up, we're at the barriers with Group 1 racing in Melbourne. And the first of the 3 big champions ones to look at here, James, is the sprint. Now, we saw a great Everest, and we thought, well, will we see Nature Strip or not? But we get Nature Strip back against Giga Kick. That's fantastic planning. It's worked out beautifully.
Yeah, it's a tantalising rematch, that's for sure. But I think he might be able to turn the tables, Matty. Just back on his home deck, so to speak. He's won this race twice, and the year that he was beaten, he bumped into a rampaging bivouac that year. He went like black caviar that day. But yeah, I just think the race was probably set up for a swooper last time in the Everest. Those leaders really overdid it. Nature Strip was caught out 3 wide without cover. Eduardo knocked up to be beaten 9 and Joyful Fortune was beaten 5 lengths. So the fact that he did stick on as well as he did, he was beaten around a length. I think this race sets up a lot differently down the straight. He won't be pestered, it doesn't look that way anyway, and he might just be able to control things down the middle of the track.
He does love the straight. So does Giga Kick. Giga Kick's 5 for 5 and does enjoy the straight, but I think James is on the money there.
Well, he's the big speed horse. He's the big dog back on his home deck. And I think that is the big factor here with Nature Strip. That Everest run, he was just hung out wide, and that probably sapped him, I reckon, in those middle stages when he was just hung out on a limb there. That probably might have been the difference late, I reckon.
Yeah, and Giga Kick has to do it again. We've seen Nature Strip time and time again front up in these big races and get it done. Giga Kick has to back it up from the Everest.
Billa Nipotina's flying. That last win at the Valley was super.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the horse. If it was, in that soft, heavy range, I'd give her a chance, but the drying track probably works against her. And her best efforts, I think, at this level have come at the Valley around that bend that she just seems to love.
Is there an outsider? Is there an upset coming?
Maybe Rothfire. We know he's got the ability, that's for sure. And he was really brave, I think, last start on a wet track, which I don't think is in his wheelhouse. So gets back on top of the ground here. What about the other 3-year-old, Lofty Strike? His trainer said that he hasn't enjoyed the wet tracks and he's run 2 really good races this preparation. So maybe there are a couple of dogs.
All right, James, your tips for the sprint.
Yeah, I can't go past the big dog, as Sharkie said. Nature Strip on top. Giga Kick is the danger. Got him for second. Levante, I think the Kiwi could spice up exotics. Look, it's won 8 races on good tracks, so the drying track suits Levante, and was actually the first home in the Newmarket down the outside. So led home the outside division, wasn't in the placings, but does have a monster finish on its day.
Shark, how have you got him?
I think Nature Strip's the one. He'll turn the tables on Giga Kick, I think, and let's go with Rothfire in next best.
All right, I've got Nature Strip on top. I'll put Bella Nipotina in for second ahead of Giga Kick, but it's certainly going to be a great race, as is the Champions Mile. And the intriguing horse for me here, James, is Private Eye. Comes from Sydney, we thought it was going to win the Everest before Giga Kick got there, and then wins that 1,300 metre race. Can race over the mile.
Yeah, it's had an outrageous preparation. It's just come back airborne. It carried 60 kilos first up at Flemington and absolutely obliterated the clock that day. And then, as you said, almost won the Everest. It's a horse that could have run in the Champions Sprint or the Champions Mile. It's going that well. In saying all that, I've gone with My Oberon to knock it off.
Pretty impressive, My Oberon. And the one start we've seen, this overseas horse did it beautifully.
Yeah, he did win well.
Well, hang on, there's a butt coming up.
Well, I just don't think that race wasn't the quality of these. So Private Eye is absolutely flying. My Oberon's going to have to go to an all-time career high to get anywhere near Private Eye. His form in the UK, certainly not Group 1 form.
Alligator Blood and Mr Brightside come out of the Cox Plate. Is it positive, negative?
I think it's a positive for Mr Brightside. I think highlights the strength of this race that he's an $11 chance in this. I just think he's the map horse. Cox Plate, he drew terribly, had to go back and settle in the last few. He probably lands in the first 5 or 6 here, 1 off the fence with cover, and he flies at the mile, 7 from 10 or something like that. So Alligator Blood I'm probably risking, but Mr. Brightside is in the ball game for sure.
Where did you land with your numbers?
My Oberon, Sharkie mentioned, it wasn't the strongest race last time, but he beat a couple of really good wet trackers in arrogant fashion. I think he's even better on a dry track and he'll strip a lot fitter. So second up in Australia, my Oberon on top, Private Eye, I mean, there's nothing between them. You can go either way. And Mr. Brightside I've got for third.
Shark.
Private Eye to smack these.
To smack him?
He'll smack him. Yeah. He'll absolutely smack him.
Has he got a licence to smack horses?
I think he does.
Okay.
He's got a licence to smack. This weekend only. Kiss Some, number 10 at a massive price.
Kiss Some? Where did you find that?
Half brother to Dim. I think he'll be all right. He was a really good run in the Silver Eagle, little sneaky hidden run. So I like the fact they've gone here and taken on the big boys. And Cascadian, who's flying.
I'm with James. I've got my Oberon on top to beat Private Eye. And Cascadian, as you mentioned, just doesn't run a bad race. All right, that's At the Barriers coming up next, where our Melbourne focus is. It's still Group 1 racing. It's the Champion Stakes.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
This is our Melbourne focus on Punters Inside Run. I'm Matthew Campbell, joined by James Lamb and Mick Sharkie. And no bigger race to talk about than the Champion Stakes. And Anamo's back. Anamo's won 4 in a row. They're all Group 1 races. Here's the big question. Does Anamo make it 5 in a row?
Yes, he does. Mate.
Okay.
End of segment?
No, but why can't I'm Thunderstruck turn the tables? That's the question.
Well, there isn't much between them, as we know, as we saw in the Cox Plate. But I just think Anamo has the much better racing pattern. Slow tempo, fast tempo, doesn't matter. He's drawn beautifully again, similar to the Cox Plate. He'll lob in the first 5 or 6, one off with cover. I'm Thunderstruck will go back and have to run him down again. And look, he was taking ground off him in the Cox Plate, but jockey might have been a little bit kind to Anamo late in the race, and who knows how much more he had up his sleeve. I think he's the bomb-proof horse, wet or dry. He just finds a way to win, and that's the other thing. Like, he keeps winning them. I'm Thunderstruck keeps running second to him.
Everyone keeps talking about I'm Thunderstruck at Flemington.
At Flemington,
how much
the bigger
he loves
track.
Flemington. Well,
Yeah.
Anamo's never been to Flemington.
No.
He might be better again.
Anamo's going to have to get the app out.
Exactly.
How do I get to Flemington?
Well, he's trained there sometimes. But it's amazing, isn't it, that he hasn't actually seen his home track before, which is quite unusual. But
What about a couple of others that come through the Cox Plate? Now, Zaki won this race last year. Mo'unga's so consistent, but not winning at the moment.
Well, Maximal also ran really well and gets back on top of the ground too. Second in the Turnbull. Gold Trip comes through that race. So I think there's enough form around Maximal for them to be relatively confident that he could run into the minor money.
All right, James, the moment of truth. We know you've got Anamo on top, but give us your top 3.
Yeah, I think Anamo's a nice way to just double our money on the last day of the carnival. Matty, I'm Thunderstruck the Danger, and Zaki probably leads uncontested this time around. He's had sort of Alligator Blood being a bit of a pest throughout the preparation, but I think he gets a softish lead, and he has one on a good 4 track here as well, All-Star Mile. So he's one to run third. Outside of those 3, I'd be surprised if we saw the winner.
Shark.
Anamo on top. I think Hinged can really elevate back on top of the ground, getting to 2,000 metres. She's been waiting for that. Hopefully she can sit close. I'm Thunderstruck in for third.
I'm going with On Thunderstruck to turn the tables. Maybe I'm just speaking through my kick here because I just reckon we can get a bit more value in front of Anamo. And I think Elliptical can't win, but just with no weight on the back, the 3-year-old, the talented youngster might be able to run into a drum. So that's my 3 for the big race. What about your best for the day at Flemington?
Yeah, best for the day. If it's not Anamo, it'll be race 5, number 4, a Tissue. The JMac tax has kicked in and we've missed the early price, but we're still getting around that sort of $4.50, $5 mark for a Tissue. Very unlucky in the Empire Rose last start. Was savage through the line. 2,000 metres I think is a big tick, even though we've only seen this horse once over 2,000, which is a little bit surprising. Did bolt in on a good track. So I think she's a good way to finish the carnival. Just needs a bit of luck. I don't think she'll be as far back as we've seen her because she's drawn a lot better and probably sits around midfield and goes whooshka. Matty?
Your best?
Solcombe in the 4th.
We agree.
Yeah. Oh, do we? That's a good thing.
We'll have to re-record this.
No, I think UK form is excellent. Won the Melrose at York. That's it's like a mini Ebor, and he was probably the easiest winner of that in the last 10 years.
All right, so we're both on Solcombe. You're on a Tissue. I reckon I'll be following in there. Thank you, James, as always. See you next week.
Matty. See you next week.
That is our Melbourne focus. Next, Sydney focus with Nick H.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
It's Sydney Focus time here on Punters Inside Run. Mick Sharkie still with me. Nick H from punters.com.au joins me. Great to see you again, Nick. How's your week been?
Yeah, big week, of course. We had the big dance on Tuesday, decent crowd on track for that, and another day, another $2 million race on Saturday.
And it's not, you know, that's the way things roll in Sydney now, isn't it? Let's just put some prize money in and get a big race. 1,800 metres for 5-year-olds. Your overall thoughts of the race?
A tough one to assess as far as the form. They're coming from absolutely everywhere, a couple of international horses as well. So it's a decent field, but as I mentioned, tough to assess.
Would you be dancing? Are you a big dance, little dance, or are you just doing a bit of a jig here?
Oh, well, depending what time of the evening, Matty. I'm usually a big danceman. Yeah, a bit of a lane from Seinfeld sort of area.
I got a text from you at 4:28 after Derby Day, so that's another story. We'll talk about that later on. Let's look at some of the main chances. Ellsberg won the lead-up races, the Epsom, the Diamond Prelude. Ready for the 1,800?
That's the question mark, and probably why I've gone around at the price. The lead-up win was very good, and the map does look good here, but sometimes on paper when it looks like that, you get a couple that'll go forward and put a little pressure on. If he does get taken on, that 1,800 metres is the big query. Laws of Indices comes out of the Cox Plate.
Wow. And a good run in the
Cox Plate. And only beaten less than 3 lengths.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's knocking on the door, isn't he? He's running the 2-rack was very good. He's ready to win. You know, this looks like a pretty good race for him. Ayrton's
one of my favourite horses. It doesn't seem to like those really soft tracks. Needs a firmer track and gets one.
He definitely gets that on Saturday. Good weather up there, so it gets the right track conditions. Again, it's just the 1,800 metres running a strong race there.
You like Ayrton, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. I thought you did.
Well, there's not a lot, sort of, as Nick's alluding to, there's not a lot of speed, not a lot of pressure. I reckon he can lob.
Yeah. All right, mate, what's your top 3 selections for the big race, the $2 million 5 Diamonds?
Gone the way of Laws of Indices, as mentioned, just that form reference. Would have liked a better draw, so that's the slight query, but at the $5 mark, Laws of Indices on top. I think Uncle Bryn, the way it bounced back there last start, albeit in a lot weaker company, gives it a chance because a little bit worried with the run 2 back and have to throw in Ellsberg for third. Just lobs up on the speed and should give a good sight. On form, it has to be there, doesn't it? But it's almost a lay on price. Ayrton on top?
Ayrton on top. Lord of Indices next. Let's go New Mandate.
New mandate?
Yeah, New Mandate.
Well, it's election time here in Victoria, so why not?
That's right, exactly.
It's an omen bet.
It's a good horse too. It's run some very good races in the UK.
All right, it's a tricky race, but the important thing for you, Nick, is to come up with the best bet of the day and a couple of best bets for us. Who do you like?
You got a couple. Race 4, horse called Naval Seal, a very expensive yearling. Didn't quite live up to the early expectations and paid a heavy price there. Gelding now and sold during the year, but I think he'll be a handy 1,600, 2,000 metre horse for Waller. He's got plenty of those. Good run first up, 1,800 second up. Same track conditions that he won at the end of his last campaign. So I think he's a really good bet. The last race of the day is one I'm very keen on as well.
I like it when you say the last race you're keen because it's almost like we can. Doesn't matter how the day's going, we can sort of hang in there.
Hopefully, and it'll be with Arnica around the $9 price.
Beautiful.
Same setup as last time we saw him. A 1,400 metre fresh, unbelievable win that time, albeit not at great company, but I think the runner-up on that occasion is still a pretty handy horse, so looked very good in the trials. So I think Arnica can get us out. All right,
that is a great way for us to finish on Saturday. Great way for you to finish today.
Thank you.
Nick H from punters.com.au. We're waiting till the last, but with you, all you have to do is join us next because we've got all the numbers, all the winners, the big call.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
This is the big call on Punters Inside Run. This is just where we get straight to the point. Give you the names, the numbers, the tips from all our experts. Mick Sharkie, take us away. Tell us what James Lamb likes at Flemington for final day.
Okay, matey, the Lamb Man. The champion sprint here's with Nature Strip number 1 on top to beat Giga Kick number 14 and Levante number 12. In the Champions Mile, his top 3, My Oberon number 9 to beat Private Eye number 2 and Mr Brightside number 5. And in the Champion Stakes, his superstar horse Animo number 7 to win again to beat I'm Thunderstruck number 1, Zaki number 2. And his best bet, Matty, all day at Flemington, race 5 number 4, a tissue.
I'll be on a tissue and I'll be crying. I might need it if it loses. But anyway, we go to 5 Diamonds Day at Rosehill, $2 million race. Nick H, his tips for that race. He's got Laws of Indices number 2 on top from number 7, Uncle Bryn, and then also Ellsberg number 1 to run in the top 3. His best bet, he's got a couple. He's got Naval Seal, race 4, number 7, and then in the last, race 10, number 7, Arnica to finish the day at Rosehill. Shark, what about yours?
Champion sprint for me, Matty. Nature Strip number 1 to bounce back ahead of number 14 Giga Kick and Levante number 12. Give Rothfire a good chance too. Champions Mile, Private Eye number 2. I think he's one of the better bets on the card there at Flemington. Kiss Summit, a big price, number 10, and Cascadian number 3 in for third. Champion Stakes, Animo number 7 to beat Hinged, number 8, and on Thunderstruck number 1. My best is Salcombe, race 4, number 11. And my next
Even another one?
Yeah, Honey Creeper at each way odds, race 5, number 5.
All right, and what about in the 5 diamonds? Who do you like?
5 diamonds, Ayrton number 4 to beat Laws of Indices 2, and New Mandate 6.
All right, my tips in the big 3 Group 1s are very similar numbers. Nature Strip to beat Bellatina and Giga Kick, 1, 9 and 14. My Oberon to beat Private Eye and Cascadian in the Champions Mile, 9, 2 and 3. In the Champion Stakes, I've got on Thunderstruck, number 1, to turn the tables on Animo, number 7, Elliptical at a bit of value for the top 3, number 10. And I'm with you, best bet is Salcombe in race 4, number 11. All right, that's all the tips here on the big call. Thank you for joining us this week on Punters Inside Run. And thank you, Mick Sharkie, for once again coming up with a couple of winners.
Thank you, Matty. Have a great day Saturday.
Should be terrific. Make sure you subscribe below so you can join us next week. But enjoy Champions Day, the final day of the big Flemington Carnival. And thanks for watching Punters Inside Run.